It's Thousand Suns time!
Spiky bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Rob Baer, and today we are talking about some Thousand Suns. The new Codex is out, and it's an interesting one. Of course, $40 Codex from Games Workshop available this weekend for all of you fans of Tzeentch. Now, some folks out there have made the comment, oh, we don't want to get a bunch of new models, but just about a year ago, Thousand Suns got their whole range, so I feel like you don't have very many legs to stand on, so don't worry, there's still plenty of fresh new models out there. And then, of course, we've got 3 new units in here, the Vortex Beast, the Tzaangor Shaman, and the Tzaangor Elitans on the disky things, technical term, in here as well. But, which is kind of cool, because they ported them over from Age of Sigmar, and now you can use them in both, along with the Tzaangors. That being said, this book probably isn't as powerful on its own as some of the other books that have come out. I guess Haspel on the Long War podcast used the term, they got Grey Knighted, but that's a little heavy-handed, because there is still some stuff in here, and still some units in here that could see play, and competitively, all of it can see play from a fluff standpoint. You can run Tzaangors around and do all sorts of different things, but overall, I think to get these guys to work and be super happy on the tabletop and win some games. We all like to win games. You don't want to have any feel badsies on yourself, but you don't want to give out any feel badsies. I think it's going to be a little challenging. And let's just jump right into it. This is going to be our top 10 tips and tactics. So we'll do a kind of an overview and then give you our picks for what we think is about the best that can be out of this book right here. So again, $40 Codex from Games Workshop, 108 pages give or take in here. Overall, you're going to get 26 data sheets. It's going to be 22 stratagems, 6 warlord traits, 13 relic things ish. It's like 1 page of relic, but there's other stuff you can take, and I feel like I'm forgetting. Oh, lots and lots of psychics. Lots and lots of psychics. So all 3 psychic trees, the Dark Hereticus that they already had access to for the most part from Chaos Space Marines, the Tzeentch Discipline, and the Discipline of Change. We just saw the Tzeentch Discipline over when the Demon books came out, so that's kind of cool to see it. We're already kind of familiar with it. Again, contents, we've seen this before a million times. You've got all of your data sheets here, all of your special rules and such in the back, your painted miniatures section to get those hobby juices going, and then of course all of the fluff and everything, the update on what's going on with the Crix Maledix, the Great Rift, and some other things, the bestiarian stuff, and catching you up on like why these guys, I guess some of them are now in the book, so to speak, when they weren't before. But it's very, you can tell the layout, it's all done very well from Games Workshop. I really like this blue border with like the tan. It's very complimentary. It goes great. They talk about all sorts of stuff from the rubric of Ahriman to the Planet of Sorcerers to what's going on with the Great Rift now, Prospero and Planet of Sorcerers back in the real world, or the real universe. So lots of cool stuff happening there. And then it turns out they were all friends all along, Magnus and Ahriman and everybody. It's all by design. Dun dun dun. So let's jump to the rules section. There's the painted miniatures, great looking stuff as always. An example army list, but we know generally for the most part they're not that great from Games Workshop as far as competitive play goes. As far as their special rules, well, they have the Death from the False Emperor, and they can use the Demonic Ritual, which is pretty standard from the Death Guard book. You could still summon in Nurglings and such. All of the Nurgle demons didn't have the specific faction keyword rules, so you didn't want to put them in here because it would null and void your detachment setting kind of thing to get those stratagems. Same thing applies here with the Tzeentch demons. Ahriman and Magnus both lost the ability to reroll ones. I'm sure you've probably already heard about that by now, but Ahriman is probably still the stronger choice of the two to still take. A lot of people forget this. His black staff is a beat stick in close combat. Strength 6, neg 1 AP, but look at that. 3 damage right there. That's 3 damage for 4 attacks. It's pretty solid when you look at his weapon skill and ballistic skill. Like, people forget, oh, they just try to pew-pew with him. but he's actually really good smacking people in the face with that. He's a good babysitter for Mortarion, to be quite honest, if you can fit him in there. And the Demon Prince's Tzeentch is still in here. Now there's specific things in here too about what disciplines these guys can take, and I think the Demon Prince and not Ahriman, but Magnus are the only ones that can take the Tzeentch Demon discipline, or I guess it's just the discipline of Tzeentch. So keep an eye on that. There's some specific stuff there. Let's flip to the back and talk about Magnus, and then there's another big guy I wanted to talk about. So Magnus, of course, not as good as he used to be. Lost the ability to reroll ones. You can still get him down to a 3-up invulnerable with the help of a psychic power if you want. He can reroll ones for hits, which is the Primarch of the 1000 Sun ability, and reroll ones that are part of a psychic test, but not wounds, which was interesting. Same with Ahriman, he can reroll ones. So again, another great reason to have him in a 1000 Suns army as well. Reroll hit rolls of 1 right there. But overall, Magnus is definitely nerfed. I would be very doubtful if we're going to see him competitively on the competitive scene for quite some time, unless he gets a price reduction, unfortunately. Such a great model to not see him out. It's kind of sad. Now, something that is in here that you should be aware of is the new Mutalith Vortex Beast, and I think he's only 150 points, if I recall correctly. He's kind of a mini tank with his toughness and 14 wounds. He doesn't hit quite as good, but when he does hit, he's gonna hit like a ton of bricks. Remember, you can reroll ones and he is 1000 Suns, so that's cool. So you can put him in your detachments and still get stratagems, and the rerolls will affect him. What's cool about him is, check this out, he has a maw that has 3 attacks for each attack made with this weapon. 3 hit rolls for each attack. So your attacks at full up are 4. So you're going to be swinging with 12 attacks right here. And while it's only neg 1 AP and 1 damage, it's still pretty decent. If you get run up on, you still got something to do. And of course, you can switch to the enormous talons if you really need to, just to get a little bit more oomph in your step right there. But the big thing with him is this Vortex ability, which is kind of cool because you can either pick it to use one of these powers, still have to roll a dice. For the most part, it's going to be a 2-up to get it off. And the first one here that I'm just gonna, these all are good, but the one that's really sticking out in my mind is any enemy unit within 9 inches of the Mutalith Vortex Beast immediately suffers 1 mortal wound. So think about that. This guy's on a big footprint here, 9 inches out. That's 18 inches out plus his diameter, his existing diameter. So he's going to be doing a lot of damage, I feel like, and just plinking away, You take 3 of these guys to center your line, it's going to be doing some work, right? The ranges of the power are doubled if it has 7 or fewer wounds, but you will be casting those powers on a 3-up. Now, if you just roll for it and it's random, you can do it again. There's actually a stratagem that lets you do it a 3rd time, which is kind of cool. So then you have a 50-50 chance to get your Warp Flare right there. But there's some other cool abilities here. Now, it pairs well with some other specific units, but this is really nifty, and I like this. And it could be paired in with, it is a heavy support, so you could pair it in with a heavy support detachment and just kind of get up there and just kind of radiate out mortal wounds. He's like a little mini Mortarion. For 150 points, these guys would have to definitely get dealt with. 8-inch movement isn't too bad. I just don't see a drawback. It's not overly ridiculous or OP, but it's something that's, man, when it happens, you're like, ugh, I got to deal with this guy now. And then if you get 3 in your army, which really isn't that much of a points resource for 450 points, I'm really impressed with him. That being said, doesn't mean, we'll see a lot of them. Just my thoughts right there. And remember, you got the new Zangor Enlightens and the Zangor Shamans too. They can get in here and swirl around and do pew-pews. But they can do smites, but the way smite's going to be going with the negatives to each successful cast, I'm not sure if that's a valid strategy anymore. And then you got Gorgon out there. I believe it's Gorgon for Tyranids that, have the ability to really mess with people's psychic power. So I don't know if we're just all getting out-meted here at this point, or if, psychics are still a thing. I feel like we might just be out-meting ourselves. I don't know. Warlord Traits wise, there's actually some really good ones in here that I'd love to see on some other models. Now, Ahriman's going to get his +1 to invulnerable, which is solid. If you give me any other army that's like +1 to invulnerable save for a Warlord trait, I'm all in on that. That is great. That is awesome value right there. Magnus is going to be able to get an extra power. So I think he's at 4 powers now, which is super solid, and he gets to take them from any of the lores that he wants or any of the disciplines. That's really neat to see. 1 additional power right there, plus 1 invulnerable save, and even adding 1 to psychic tests is cool too. Like there's some abilities here that reroll Deny the Witch. And speaking of Deny the Witch, there's actually a stratagem that, or is it a strat? No, it's a relic, the Athenian Scrolls, that if you roll a double, it's irresistible force, and it basically goes off. The enemy cannot dispel it, so to speak. So that's kind of cool to see too. Even if it's a double 1 or a double 6, you still suffer. And then remember, if you die from perils, your spell doesn't go off. But besides all that, it's still really good. Stratagem wise, they ported over what was there, 22 of these. They ported them over a lot over from the Chaos book. You know, Line Breaker, Bombardment, Fire Frenzy, of course. Relic 1 is just a generic one. Veterans of the Long Wars ported over. Kill Shots ported over. Boon of Zinch, we've seen that before. I think that's actually in the normal one too. Baleful Vortex, that's the one that interacts with the Mutilate Vortex Beast, and that's going to allow him to randomly select a power at random. The power is automatically successful, no die roll is necessary. So if you have to roll that 3 because you're at 7 wounds or less, well, it's going to go off either way. I like Webway Infiltration. That's a great mechanic that we're starting to see more and more of in these latter books, where you get to hold stuff in reserves and then bring them in through that Deep Strike mechanic that everybody calls Deep Strike. That is not Deep Strike, but that's okay. We all hold on to the old thing. Talk about relics. Dark Matter Crystal, OMFG. Another thing, if you put this in any other book, it would be an auto-include in most lists. But being in here, I'm not exactly sure how we're going to see it on the tabletop. But man, this is solid here. At the end of your movement phase, you can select a Baer or a friendly T-Sun's infantry unit within 12, so it's theoretically got a decent radius and choices. Remove that unit from the battlefield, immediately set it up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from any models, using, you know, air quotes, the Deep Strike mechanic. Does not count as falling back if the unit was within 1 inch of any models. That is awesome. So cool. They also have the ability to get command points back on a 5-up. Another great, you give me that in any other army. Yeah, Guard has it, obviously. That's awesome. Like 2 super solid relics right there. Boom, boom, boom. But wait, there's more. The scrolls, we just talked about that. Irresistible force. This staff is actually pretty cool too, because they can shoot and charge in a turn which it fell back. So you give this to the right guy, you're going to be shooting, or going to be hitting, smacking with melee, at neg 1 D3 damage right there. Like, there's some solid stuff in here. And remember too, the normal dudes with the flamers spitting out a lot of hot fire could really do some damage if you start bouncing them around the tabletop. Discipline of Change is the brand new one for this book. That's there's some decent stuff in here, but nothing too crazy. I mean, some stuff we've seen similar things in Age of Sigmar. Boon, Glamour, neg 1 to hit targets, that's a great thing. Doombolt, we've seen a similar thing to that in the past. You can, of course, you know, pause the video and read these all yourself. And they're not overly good, but the ability that they can choose from all these things are great. And remember, Thousand Suns, if you're in their innate detachment ability, if you take them in a Battleforged detachment, they increase all psychic power ranges by 6 inches, and that is a huge thing to not be overlooked right here. Because check this out, Dark Hereticus has a ton of dope powers right here. Notwithstanding the fact that the shooty stuff and everything, but remember Warp Time. Warp Time's only got a range of 3 inches, y'all. 3 inches. Now it's up to 9 when you're casting it with these guys. Whoever has the ability to take Dark Hereticus, but still 9 inches to spit out that hot fire, like, and give your Mortarion an extra move. You know, there's still no reason to not team up T-Suns along with Mortarion, perhaps. That's a huge boon. That's a very unrestricted ability right there. Very cool stuff. Death Hex is also really dope to get off on things now with the ability to cast it on 12 inches. Very cool. Prescience going out to 25 is super dope too. Diabolic Strength, you know, I mean, there's some stuff in here. Like, there really is some good stuff in here. Yep. Okay. Just making sure I didn't miss any points. Here's the points values. You've probably already seen this already. It was all over the internet, you know, a week ago. But just to give you an idea, you can pause the video and check it all out yourself if you really need to check things. Big stuff is we knew horrors went down. We knew there's been a lot of changes to horrors with their invulnerable saves. We saw it with the demon book. Of course, over here, your princes and such are the same. Magnus, like I said, went up, I think 30 points. And now you have the official points, 82 on the Zangor Shaman, as well as the Zangor Lightens at 15 points. They're situational. I think they're a 5-up invulnerable, 6-up normal, or something like that. Like I could see them being good, but I feel like if you're going to spend the points on these sort of things, maybe think about those Mutalith Beasts at the Vortex Beast at the 150, just because of their ability to really disrupt things and kind of have to be dealt with on the tabletop, because they're just big, and they're bad, and they're going to be spitting that hot fire every turn. Combo up 3 of them, and you're going to be throwing out 3 mortal wounds. Like, think about that for a minute. Like, I think it's worded that way. Let's see. Yeah. I don't see why that doesn't stack if you have 3 of them. So I imagine these things might go out of stock. That seems to be the latest case with Games Workshop. Things go out of stock pretty quick when they are good. We saw it with Biolors, we saw it with Hive Guard. You know, we've seen it with pretty much all the guard tanks at this point. I just don't think in some cases Games Workshop was prepared for the popularity of some units. But that being said, overall, I can't say this is the most powerful book. I can't say this is even the most half powerful book that's out there. But overall, there is some stuff in here that you're going to need to be aware of so you don't get got. And there's some great fluffy stuff in here too. So, you know, it is what it is. If you're a fan of the Thousand Suns, it's an auto pickup for you because this is their first book. But for most people, I just don't think it's going to be something that you're going to have to be super aware of, you know, on your local scene. But then again, you could definitely see some detachments coming to the fore in the near future, and some builds and some funsy builds, and who knows from there might be something we overlook. But that's what's cool about all these FAQs and all these chapter approves, is what might not be as powerful now could definitely come to the fore in the near future with updates from Games Workshop. So that's it for this one. I hope I presented this material as best as I could. We went kind of fast. There wasn't a whole lot to talk about, to be quite honest. Didn't want to waste both of our times with this one. If you like these kind of features, please hit the subscribe button, keep those hobby muscles strong, and turn on notifications to be the very first to like and comment on these videos.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. TheLongWar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos.